Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video on this YouTube channel. In today's video, we're ranking the top 10 best villains from Season 2 of Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. Don't forget, a new video is posted every week on this channel, and if you have suggestions or ideas, feel free to share them in the comments. Let's get started. Alright, so at number 10 we have Dandy Highwayman. Dandy is a masked bandit with a very charming British accent who terrorizes Crystal Cove. He robs people and families on isolated roads, and then abducts women using his charm and simply by listening to them. This dandy highwayman isn't just a thief who steals to get rich. He's a bizarre mix between a gentleman and a romantic rogue. He uses a motorcycle, some old-fashioned pistols, and loads of charm to seduce the ladies of Crystal Cove. Mystery Incorporated begins their investigation to uncover the mysterious disappearances of women in town, and finds out that all the missing women had something in common. They were all part of the same book club. They decide to trap Dandy in Velma's yard, where the bait, a woman named Angie, who is actually Velma in disguise, lures him into a dynamite explosion. In the end, Dandy Highwayman turns out to be the town's librarian. He confesses that he never meant to hurt anyone, but that he simply wanted to be around people because he never had friends, and he always dreamed of being an adventurer instead of a librarian. He learned to speak with a British accent, to ride a motorcycle, and most importantly, that if he pays attention to women and listens to them, he could win their hearts. At number 9 in our ranking is Dark Lilith. She is a terrifying creature that haunts Mount Diablo and attacks anyone who dares to come near. This is exactly what happened to Gary and Ethan, who were attacked by Dark Lilith while hiking on the mountain. After the incident, Mystery Incorporated arrives to investigate. They encounter a group of unfriendly locals and begin their climb up the mountain in search of clues. However, due to one of Fred's traps, the gang falls into a cave where they meet an amnesiac woman named Baron. She shows them the location of Dark Lilith's hideout. Mystery Incorporated reaches the top of the mountain and discovers an old Spanish galleon. Once aboard the ship, they navigate through various traps in order to retrieve a piece of the planispheric disc. Dark Lilith appears, and a battle begins between her and the gang over the disc piece. She manages to get her hands on the piece, but is caught mid-air with a lasso and ends up dragging the entire ship down to the base of the mountain. There, Velma realizes that Dark Lilith isn't truly a creature. She recognizes an old scent of hot dogs. Dark Lilith turns out to be Hot Dog Water, who is still working for Mr. E. However, she confesses everything and, in a sincere act of friendship, hands the disc piece over to Velma, saying she wants to cut all ties with Mr. E. Next on our list is Krampus. This is a legendary creature that haunts the town of Crystal Cove and attacks misbehaving teenagers, leaving them with white hair from fear. Soon, all the troublemaking kids in town begin to be targeted by Krampus. Meanwhile, Fred decides to show his parents the place where he keeps the pieces of the planispheric disc. Krampus continues his rampage and attacks a video arcade, where he terrifies Sheriff Bronson Stone and a group of girls, all of whom are left with white hair. Velma suspects that the monster can't be real and notes the absence of any robotic costume. Mystery Incorporated goes to speak with Mary Ann, who is in prison, but Krampus attacks the prison and kidnaps her, taking her to an old abandoned doll factory. While the gang is busy fighting Krampus, the original Mystery Incorporated, along with Mr. E, tries to steal the planispheric disc pieces. After successfully stealing them, they take the pieces back to Mr. E's hideout. In the end, the gang manages to capture Krampus, who turns out to be Charlie the Haunted Robot, remotely controlled by Jason Wyatt. The big twist comes when Mr. E returns to his hideout and finds that the disc pieces are gone, replaced by a DVD from Mystery Incorporated. In the video, the gang reveals that everything was part of a well-executed plan to stage an elaborate setup. Mary Ann was released from prison specifically to act as bait. Hot Dog Water infiltrated Mr. E's hideout to steal the disc pieces. Fred spied on his parents to learn the safe's code, and Krampus was the perfect distraction, so the original Mystery Incorporated wouldn't suspect a thing. Next on our list is the Horrible Herd. This herd consists of skeletal carnivorous cows that destroy everything in their path. It all begins when several farms in Crystal Cove are completely wiped out by this terrifying herd. Mystery Incorporated begins their investigation and discovers that the herd leaves behind a strange substance that's a mix of cheese and honey, and these cows eat tractors. Velma starts mapping the attacks, and the pattern of destruction forms a shape that points to the center being Destroido, the company owned by Mr. E. With the help of Hot Dog Water, the gang finds out that Professor Pericles is behind the attacks. He created these cows in a lab by crossbreeding cattle with piranhas and bees, with the goal of destroying Crystal Cove and pressuring Mystery Incorporated into handing over the pieces of the planispheric disk. The gang soon discovers that the herd is made up only of males, and Daphne deduces that there must be a queen. With the help of Mayor Nettles and Sheriff Bronson, they take off in a helicopter toward the hive where the queen is located. Shaggy and Scooby steal one of the eggs, which draws the queen into a trap, allowing the gang to escape in the helicopter and lure the herd away from the town. However, Professor Pericles is watching from afar and orders Brad to fire a missile at the helicopter. The missile hits the tail rotor, causing Nova the dog to fall straight into the middle of the herd. The queen is thrown into the sea, and the entire herd follows her, dispersing into the ocean. At number 6 in our ranking is El Aguirre. He is a legendary Spanish conquistador whose story lies at the very core of the entire mystery surrounding Crystal Cove. Many centuries ago, El Aguirre and his crew discovered a crystal sarcophagus filled with treasures and black pearls. But what seemed like a true fortune turned out to be a curse. The evil entity inside the sarcophagus clouded their minds, and the entire crew became obsessed with gold and power, committing atrocities that destroyed entire villages. Realizing the evil he had unleashed, El Aguirre managed to resist the influence of the evil entity and led his crew to a remote location, where they hid the treasure and the sarcophagus. They used the planispheric disk to bury it, and then broke the disk into 6 pieces, each hidden in a dangerous location. As for the place where the treasure was hidden, it would later become known as Crystal Cove. El Aguirre hid one of the disk pieces on his ship, which he ordered to be transported to the top of a mountain and protected with mechanical traps. Centuries later, during the battle between Dark Lilith and Mystery Incorporated, the Spanish galleon descends from the mountain, and the ghost of El Aguirre appears, uttering just one word, Nibiru, a warning of imminent danger. Later the gang, along with Scooby-Doo, enters a dream world where they're chased by a terrifying version of the Freak of Crystal Cove, straight out of a nightmare. This monstrous freak turns out to be El Aguirre himself, who is trying to scare Mystery Incorporated away from the sarcophagus. Driven by guilt and remorse for the horrors committed, El Aguirre believes that everyone involved deserves to be punished. However, when Nova, possessed by an Anunnaki, convinces El Aguirre that forgiveness and redemption are possible, he relents and allows the truth to be revealed. And we've reached the top 5 of our list of villains from Season 2. At number 5, we have Gabriel Sarah, or more precisely, the mummy of Friar Serra. Gabriel Sarah is one of the most tragic characters in the series. He was a monk who once led an ancient group of mystery solvers. Initially considered a legendary hero, the official story claimed that he and his donkey Porto saved Crystal Cove from destruction, but the truth is far darker. Everything begins to unravel when a local theater production decides to recreate Serra's legend, but things quickly spiral out of control when the mummy of Friar Serra seemingly comes to life and warns the members of Mystery Inc. not to continue telling the story. At first, the gang believes it's just a hoax tied to a stolen treasure, but the real mummy appears later in the basement of the theater and reveals the true history of the downfall of Old Crystal Cove. In the past, Serra and his group encountered a deranged conquistador who gave them 2 pieces of the planispheric disk. Trying to uncover its secrets, the group became obsessed and corrupted by the disk's dark power. Eventually, the donkey Porto, manipulated by the evil influence, planted barrels of gunpowder beneath the town and escaped with one of the disk pieces. Serra chased him into the alligator-infested swamps, and though he managed to retrieve the piece, he couldn't stop the explosion that sank part of Crystal Cove into the ocean, and the second piece of the disk was lost at sea. Tormented by guilt, Serra hid the remaining piece inside a wheel of cheese, crafted specifically so no one would ever find it again. Before his body crumbles to dust, Serra's ghost delivers 2 ominous warnings. Nibiru is coming, and the dog dies, hinting that, as it has always been, the mascot animal is the beginning of the end for every mystery-solving team. In a very special spot on our list, we find Brad Chills and Judy Reeves, Fred's biological parents, 2 former heroes turned allies of darkness. Once part of the original Mystery Incorporated, they were corrupted by their obsession with the planispheric disk and ended up allying with Professor Pericles and Mr. E. Everything takes a sinister turn when Mystery Inc. is sent to investigate a supposedly haunted house. While the others search for clues, Fred is pulled through a mirror and ends up in an apocalyptic version of Crystal Cove. There, an older version of Daphne tells him that the planispheric disk has accelerated time in the town and led to its destruction, and that Fred must find the disc to fix everything. In reality, though, Fred is trapped in a fake environment, an abandoned replica of the town, built inside a film studio. There, Brad and Judy, using plastic surgery to alter their appearances, disguise themselves as old Daphne and a twisted version of Fred. Their plan is to trick Fred into revealing where he's hidden the planispheric disc. Using a set of skeletal robot minions called Mr. Bones Skelobots and an eerie film set, the two try to convince Fred that the world has collapsed. Meanwhile, the fake Fred, controlled by Brad, deceives Shaggy, Scooby, Velma, and Daphne. But suspicions begin to rise, and eventually everything leads to a dramatic confrontation between the two Freds inside an abandoned factory. Daphne realizes who the real Fred is, and he manages to recover the planispheric disc. The truth comes out. Old Daphne is Judy Reeves, and evil Fred is Brad Chills, Fred's real parents. The entire illusion was an elaborate trap to steal the disc. Fred is heartbroken but resolute. He tells them they're no longer his parents, and that he never wants to see them again. But just when it seems like everything is resolved, Professor Pericles appears and threatens to kill Daphne if he doesn't get the disc. In the end, Fred can't risk losing the love of his life, and hands over the planispheric disc to Pericles. We've made it to the podium, and taking third place in our ranking is none other than the Crybaby Clown, a crazy, explosive clown who brings chaos and destruction to the town of Crystal Cove. After Mystery Incorporated breaks up, the town begins to collapse as Crybaby Clown starts attacking without mercy, throwing explosive bottles, detonating diaper-shaped bombs, and nearly blowing up the town hall. The situation becomes so dire that the new mayor, Janet Nettles, decides to reunite Mystery Incorporated. However, Daphne is missing, and without her, the team's first attempts to catch the clown fail miserably. Soon, we learn that behind this dangerous character is Hollywood actor Baylor Hotner, who came to Crystal Cove to perfect his role as a deranged clown for an upcoming blockbuster. But his obsession with realism goes way too far. He kidnaps people to form his image team: a psychiatrist, a stylist, a plastic surgeon, a PR expert, and of course, Daphne, whom he forces into playing the role of his small-town girlfriend to help him build the perfect image of a sensitive and down-to-earth guy. All the while, Fred is heartbroken over Daphne seemingly choosing Baylor. He tries to win her back but is rejected and falls into a miserable state. Meanwhile, the rest of the gang continues the investigation with the help of Velma and Hot Dog Water, discovering that the victims have tracking devices implanted in them, essentially GPS transmitters that reveal their real-time location. When Crybaby Clown hijacks a private plane with his entire PR team on board, the gang chases him down. In a spectacular mid-air showdown, Fred takes control of the plane, defeats the clown, and saves everyone. The clown is unmasked, and revealed to be Baylor Hotner. He had used Hollywood special effects, costumes, robots, and even a film buggy to create his over-the-top villain persona. In the end, Daphne slaps him across the face and declares, "The gang is my real family." Taking the second place in this ranking is Professor Pericles. Without a doubt, he is the most dangerous villain in the entire series. Pericles is a brilliant, evil parrot, completely consumed by the lust for power hidden within the crystal sarcophagus. Once just the mascot of the original Mystery Incorporated, Pericles gradually became the mastermind behind the chaos in Crystal Cove. At first, he seemed like a strange character, locked in a glass cell at the asylum for dangerous animals. Despite being strapped in a straitjacket, Pericles escapes effortlessly, marking the beginning of a dangerous rise toward absolute power. Throughout Season 1, his position was ambiguous, sometimes ally, sometimes enemy. But in Season 2, it becomes clear. Pericles is the true villain of the series. Thirsty for control, he uses increasingly dark tactics. He betrays, manipulates, and even kills. His first victim is Ed Machine, whom he eliminates at the end of Season 1. Then comes Angel Dynamite, also known as Cassidy Williams, a former member of the original Mystery Incorporated. She refused to go along with Pericles' twisted plans, and during the underwater mission to the Kriegstaffabots robot base, she dies. And finally, in the season finale, Pericles kills Hot Dog Water, both for her past actions and because she had tried to kill him as well. He controls Mr. E by injecting cobra venom into his spine and keeping him prisoner using a remote control system that inflicts pain with every button press. After Cassidy's death, Pericles proves he has no mercy. To him, friendship is meaningless, and loyalty is a joke. In his final plan, Pericles recovers the complete planispheric disk and opens the gates to the cursed treasure hidden beneath Crystal Cove, the sarcophagus of the evil entity. So corrupted is he by power that he volunteers to become the vessel for the evil entity, believing he'll obtain ultimate power. But the entity instantly consumes him, destroying both his body and his soul. And when Mystery Inc. ultimately destroys the sarcophagus, Pericles is absorbed forever into the void, along with the evil he served. Now that we've reached number 1 in our ranking, I just want to remind you to also check out the video on the channel featuring the top 10 best villains from Season 1. On the first place is none other than the evil entity. In the depths of forgotten dimensions, where reality melts into dreams, there exists a being whose only desire is absolute destruction. Known only as the evil entity, this malevolent creature arrived on Earth thousands of years ago during the planetary alignment event known as Nibiru. Unlike the other Anunnaki, who helped humanity evolve, the evil entity sought only to corrupt and consume it. Before it could possess an animal and gain a physical form on Earth, the other Anunnaki managed to stop it by trapping it in a crystal sarcophagus filled with black pearls, sealing it between worlds. Through its psychic influence, the entity manipulated civilizations, explorers, and mystery-solving groups alike. It tempted the Spanish conquistadors, corrupting them, driving them insane, and pushing them to commit horrific acts. In a rare moment of regained clarity, Captain Eligira buried the treasure and the crystal sarcophagus deep underground, in what would eventually become known as Crystal Cove. From that point on, the town was plagued by an endless stream of mysteries, monsters, and conspiracies. But it was all a setup. The ultimate goal? To find and reactivate the planispheric disk, the only key to unlocking the entity's prison. For hundreds of years, the evil entity repeated the same pattern: 4 humans and 1 animal. Just like with the Hunters of Secrets, then with the original Mystery Incorporated, and finally, with our current Mystery Incorporated. But this time, something was different. When Professor Pericles, blinded by power, reassembles the disc and uses it to free the evil entity, he foolishly believes that by offering himself as a vessel, he'll gain ultimate power. But, unfortunately for him, the entity devours him completely, taking over his body to be reborn as a tentacled abomination, ready to destroy the universe. However, this time, things don't go as planned. The new Mystery Incorporated, unlike the teams before them, is unshakable, built on true and genuine friendship, untouched by manipulation. With the help of the heart of the jaguar, they destroy the crystal sarcophagus, the gateway between worlds, and the evil entity is cast into eternal oblivion. Reality rewrites itself as if none of it ever existed. Everything touched by the evil entity is erased, and Crystal Cove becomes the sunniest town in the world. I hope you enjoyed this video featuring the best villains from Season 2 of Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you'll know when I post a new video. Until next time, I wish you all the best.